Talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Guys, it's sunny. It's Singing in the Rain. It's the Sunny Chayes Show. We're here at UBN in Hollywood. And I sort of feel like there was a BT and an AT. We're like in, the before Trump and the during Trump, I should kind of say. And so we're sort of in this transition time, I feel like. And do want to remind everyone, by the way, that Obama is still our president. So let's remember that that's happening, and let's send him love and light, and so he can get as much done as possible before he leaves. Let us really do that, because that's his intention, by the way. And I want you all to know something extremely exciting. I can't really believe this is happening. 70 years ago tomorrow is the anniversary of the Autobiography of a Yogi coming out into our world. Paramahansa Yogananda wrote this most luminous book that has changed the lives of millions of people all over the world for all of these years. And it's the anniversary tomorrow. It's his birthday tomorrow. And I have with me two incredible guests. I'm so excited. Stephen Powers is with us, and some of you may know who he is, and as you know, I don't do really long bios, but I just want to say a little bit because he's a multi-award-winning guy. He has been the founder, president, and or CEO of so many companies and organizations: Universal Music, Chameleon Music, Agape Media Information, or International, where he did with Michael The Answer Is You, Spiritual Liberation, Transcendence. He was director of A&R at Capitol Records, executive producer of over about 150 hit records. And he's going to be bringing us some really incredible information about the BODHI Tree. And we also, I'll tell you in a minute who else we're going to have. We're going to introduce him in a second, so stand by. We have another guest. And so I want to bring Stephen on right now. Can we do that, John? We're just going to get right to it here. It's a massive applause in the world for Stephen. Woohoo!
Thank
Gosh!
You, Such a joy to be here.
My pleasure to have you. As I say, it's kind of fun. You're such a kind of under the radar sort of guy in a way, and yet you've done so very much. So thank you for all that you've done and all this incredible music you've brought to us. I mean,
and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to have been of service in this way. I became aware of my life's mission when I was about 20 years old, that it was to uplift the human spirit through arts and entertainment. And I've, had this opportunity to pursue that for this many years, more than 4 decades, and work with many great artists. I am sort of that classic behind the camera person, or behind the scenes person, behind the glass in a recording studio, rather than out front. But I love also, speaking to the public and to the audience, and just very, very grateful for this opportunity.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. And as we know, a lot of the magic happens behind the glass and in the studio and behind the scenes. And so, many people out there listening and watching are artists, and you guys know what it takes to create any one thing. It, takes a village.
Yes,
and you're sort of the captain of the village sometimes, the fearless leader of the village. So I really, really appreciate that you have stepped up in so many ways that are creating music, entertainment, thought that is so uplifting, because I feel like and I know that we're going to chat about the BODHI Tree. And, for you guys who don't know, the BODHI Tree came about at a time when it was just really, really unique. There was really, I don't think if there was anything like it in the world, perhaps.
That's true. So it was founded, for those in your audience who don't know, and I know many, many people who listen to your show will be familiar with the BODHI Tree, but it was founded in 1970. And at that time, the idea of a New Age bookstore really didn't exist. We know it was certainly one of the first, if not the first, such store in the United States. I'm fond of telling the story about the founders, Stan Madsen and Phil Thompson, who were aeronautics engineers at the time. And they were literally, and you know this expression if you're as old as I am, they decided to make love, not war. So they were building planes that dropped bombs. And they said, this is, not what we want to be, we're not what we want to do, and we're going to open a bookstore dedicated to wisdom traditions, to love, to awareness. And they opened the BODHI Tree in 1970. So, that's a long history. It was on Melrose Avenue for more than 4 decades. And we are now a new team taking, that legacy, picking up the mantle from them. They are still advising us, so we're thrilled that they're still involved with the BODHI Tree. And my constant question to them is, how did you do this and how did you do that? Because they are so good at it. And I'll share you their very simple answer, because it's so important and it's something that we're trying to continue with the BODHI Tree. They said, we didn't have a plan. We simply listened.
Beautiful.
And they said, the audience came in and really told us, what they were interested in, what they knew, what they loved.
Yeah.
And together we all grew. So, we're going to try to continue in that tradition with some interesting new plans that we can talk about.
Which I love because, of course, life has moved along. I mean, 40 years ago, 20 years ago even, there weren't things like podcasts. I mean, for God's sakes, UBN's only been here for what, John, 6 years now? One of the things that I loved about the BODHI Tree, and I was a frequenter and loved it so much, was that it was so real. I was kind of reading some of the notes about it, and I was thinking everything about it was real. I mean, there was wood, there was clay, there was crystal, there was glass, there was, the paper was the, books. I mean, everything in it was made of something organic and real. And I really love that because, of course, so often you go into stores these days and it's just a plethora of plastic. And I'm kind of old school and I love all that. And just the sense, the incense and the special teas and the, as we were saying, the tinkling of sounds and the tinkling of conversation and just, oh my gosh, it really was an oasis in the crazy LA vibe, that's kind of been going on.
The word that we hear most often from the people that we've been asking the questions of the audience and of the people who are now interested in the BODHI Tree, who maybe didn't have the opportunity to be there, is what was it about it that you so loved? And the word that comes up most often is community. So people considered it their spiritual community, a place where they could go, connect with like-minded people, discover themselves, and discover more information. So it's always been about community, and that's an aspect that we are bringing back, although we're starting this return using new technology, as you've mentioned, and making the BODHI Tree available to everyone in the world by putting it online. So BODHITree.com has actually launched this week. You can go there now, BODHITree.com, and begin to experience some of what you experienced in the store in the 4 decades it was there. But in addition, we are opening up a live event space, concept space, and this event that we're talking about with Yogananda is going to be there tomorrow night. It's called BODHI Tree Live. It's back on Melrose, so it's at the corner of Melrose. It's on La Brea, but at the corner of Melrose and La Brea.
Yay.
And it's not the full-on store. I don't want people's expectations to come back to I'm going to walk in and feel like I'm back, at the old BODHI Tree on Melrose.
There are a few of those around in the world, so that's okay.
Although it will be. I mean, our intention is to come back to a retail location, but we had to take these in sequence and in steps. And so the first step was to put it online. The second step is this, which we're now doing, which is to open the event space, which will have a little mini shop in it. So there is a store that'll be there. And in fact, we're going to have an event there for everyone who's listening, in addition to tomorrow with Yogananda on December 8th, which is Bodhi Day. For those who don't know, it's the day that Siddhartha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Historically, some thousands of years ago, was December 8th. So it's sort of a Buddhist Christmas, if you will.
Rock on. I will be there. I am so
I don't know
going to
if the
be
Buddhists
there.
would like that description, but, we look at all these
But a high holy day, perhaps.
A high holy day and an awareness of the Buddha and an awareness of self-awareness, so that we're all seeking enlightenment. So on Bodhi Day, December 8th, we're going to have our open house at BODHI Tree Live from 11 a.m. until 9 p.m. with speakers, with readers, with oracles, with music, with all kinds of lovely things. You can come by and see us.
Oh my God, I absolutely love that. That is fantastic. That's so, so exciting. And one of the things that I read about what's going to be happening online, which I'm really excited about, is that you really had a place back in the day, or, the BODHI Tree was, where just incredible speakers would come and speak. I mean, of course, Marianne was there. I mean, just a list of probably 100 luminaries were there over the time.
Actually,
Probably more than
thousands
that.
of luminaries.
But I'm thinking that, the ones that, exactly.
And let me share another piece of very good news about what we've been doing. What we've been doing.
So fast. You're like my perfect guest. Go in, go for it. I just love that you're going to bring those back to the people. Right?
Yeah,
those
that's the
older,
point. Is that those
so
while
cool.
they had those great events at the Bodhi Tree, and Stan and Phil and the whole team there, it was a team as well and a community as well, had the foresight to record them. So if you ever spoke there, Narayan, or others, anybody, they were recording them. They weren't doing anything with those recordings. They were just throwing all these cassettes in massive boxes full of cassettes. So in now bringing forth what was created there, we are doing a series called Bodhi Talks, and there's about 500 of them. They include 5 talks by Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, Paulo Coelho, who's now recluse and doesn't come out anymore, Don Miguel Ruiz, Doreen Virtue, just a who's who in the world of metaphysics, and authors and speakers that spoke at the Bodhi Tree, and they're all going to be made available to the public as Bodhi Talks.
Now, may I say something
Yes.
about that, which I think is super exciting? I mean, how cool for us guys, we guys, however you say that in proper grammar, to experience what these peeps were saying, like Marianne, 30 years ago when she was, 30 years old, and that fresh, new kid on the block energy she had, or Jean Houston
Teaching
back
the Course
in
in
the
Miracles
day.
back then, right?
Right. I mean, all of these voices from such a shoot up from the ground kind of energy. And it'll be so interesting to hear how relevant it all is, which I'm most sure it's quite relevant.
It
But
is,
don't you
and
think,
some
how
of it has
cool?
evolved, as you're just saying,
Super
right?
cool.
They've learned and they've grown. So one of our ideas is to actually sit down with Marianne and say, comment on what you said when you were 30. I'd be interested to actually
She would
understand.
love that.
Yeah,
Oh, my God,
how
yeah.
your awareness has evolved.
Yes, and actually, speaking of Marianne, she's going to be on the show in the next couple of weeks, and she's doing one of her sister giants, by the way, you guys, in
again,
D.C. in February. So if you're D.C. people, prepare to go there, or any of us go, because, with everything that's going on right now, that, really navigating, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when our next guest comes on, about kind of navigating what it means to be a sacred person in the world now. What does that actually mean? And taking it kind of dancing in the streets, people taking it to the streets. So I'm sure Marianne will have a lot to say about what she said and what she thinks now.
I think she'll talk
As
about
would Jean
responsibility,
Houston,
right?
right?
Which is what we all want to be aware of, is we have a responsibility, if we want to think of ourselves as enlightened beings, as responsible spiritual practitioners, we have a responsibility to continue to carry that light and to bring it farther and wider, especially now.
And in an expansive way. And we do have things. I had a very original person who invented the like button on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, Leah Perlman, and we were talking about, just what's happened in the last 10 years with Facebook and social media, and, how that's really shifted things, of course, speeded things up and allowed people to see, some dark stuff, but a lot of light also. And so the fact that we're going to be able to experience a Bodhi tree online and these Bodhi talks and everything, I think it's just really it's just so relevant. I think it's so relevant and so important, because again, there are people all over the world who would otherwise not be able to get to this stuff, who are in wherever they are in rural areas and things like that, and they can be connected.
Well, that's one of the things we felt was important to do. And so for those of you who live in Los Angeles who keep asking us, when are you bringing back the Bodhi Tree as a retail store that we can go to, I ask you to be a little less selfless and understand that the rest of the world would also like to experience that energy, that teaching, that awareness that it represented. And so that's why we really said, let's use modern technology, let's use the internet, let's spread this far and wide. That's an important part of what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think that there are places that are communal gatherings. I mean, like Alice's Quiet Mind bookstore at Agape. Like
Fantastic.
Michael really and that has a lot of, I mean, I think that he's always had that kind of Bodhi tree vibe in his mind, and with Akili, his brother, working and kind of creating that vibe there and wanting to have book signings and people coming to speak and things like that to kind of give that vibe. So, there are a few little oases around the land that people can go to. And yet again, for the real, the depth and everything that you're bringing, and, being able to have, I think that was what was exciting about the Bodhi tree back in the day, when there weren't the bookstores that, if something was sacred or spiritual, or some new health book that gave great ideas about water, about anything that had to do with health or mind, body, and or love in a different way or anything like that. There just wasn't a place to kind of just walk in and immerse, and just be like, okay, I'm safe. Like anything in here, I'm probably going to want to read.
Yeah. Isn't that wonderful?
Right? And
Yes.
just woo, those arms of yumminess around you.
Stan and Phil were book lovers, through and through.
Oh,
They
yeah.
really understood the value of books,
Yeah.
and we hope to carry that awareness and that legacy forward as well in the continuation of the Bodhi tree. But yeah, I'll tell you, I have an interesting take on that, because in addition to seekers and spiritual people looking at the Bodhi tree, it was also a favorite destination for all of Hollywood. So,
Yes,
many of the
absolutely.
ideas that found them ways into film, into music. I mean, and Joni Mitchell was a regular there. Crosby, Stills and Nash was a regular there. When I contacted Deepak Chopra about the Bodhi tree coming back, he immediately wrote back with a story about bringing Prince there. Excuse me, Prince went there as well. Bringing Michael Jackson there in disguise and being unable to get him to leave, that he was there all day long and discovering it, and finding things there. So, it's been interesting that the way it's found its way into popular culture,
Shirley
whether in science
MacLaine
fiction, whether in books, whether in movies or television, it's just grown and grown.
Yeah, and the other thing about actual books, I mean, I, being a journalist and having this show, people always want to send me PDFs. And what ends up happening with me is I say, I'm old school too. Like, send me the book, because I will literally read, bits on the show. I'll underline things, I'll earmark. And I mean, I'm kind of old school that way. I like to curl up with a book. The actual book with tea or my latte and, enjoy. So I think there is something to be said for that. And I had the experience of, okay, it's a tree also, because I'm as we all know, big time environmentalist.
Yes.
But to balance it out and to, send the love and share the books and share the love that way, I think is a really beautiful experience that's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, it's not something that's, it's sort of ancient.
Exactly. It's the great original media tradition, right? And certainly one. This is good news for those of you not in the trade, in the book trade in particular. Ebooks have peaked and have actually dropped off a little. So unlike music, which was completely taken over by MP3s and iTunes, and we don't have CDs or LPs anymore, I mean, collectors do, but books, people decided, just like you, that they don't want to sit there with an electronic device in their face in bed or on the beach or in their favorite chair. They want to hold a book and read it that way. So I think that's lovely, and it's a part of that tactile experience that keeps us connected with our roots.
Absolutely. And now I think at this point, you know what I would like you to do, Stephen, if I can put this on you?
Sure.
I would like you to introduce our next guest.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I'm happy to. So, and I'll do this in context of what we're doing tomorrow, which is the Celebrate Yogananda, 70 Years of Autobiography of a Yogi. So as you said in your introduction, it is the actual date of the original publication. Was it 1946? 1946. That it was published, now over 20 million copies sold. And we are producing this event, co-producing this event. Everything is co-created and co-produced in our world with a wonderful organization called Ananda worldwide. And Narayan is here, is the LA chapter leader, guide, maybe would be a word, and your wife Dharma Devi, and so together these two organizations are working together to put on this event. So Narayan knows much about the work of Paramahansa Yogananda, and welcome, Narayan.
Thank you, Steve.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. And as we chatted about, when I was in South Africa and I was 17, I've been a follower. I read the autobiography and the biography of Gandhi when I was 12, and I've been doing this stuff for a long time. So when I was there and I read Autobiography of a Yogi, I was ready to leave Johannesburg and go straight to India.
Wow.
And then I thought, well, that would be really easy for me, because they would just be my peeps, and what growth would happen there. So I decided to go to the hardest ashram in the world, Los Angeles, California. I figured if I could, if I could work on my spirituality in LA, that's a much better chops than just going and being with my peeps in India. So that's what I did. But yes, and then enjoying, of course, self-realization fellowship in. There are a couple of them, but the one that I always went to was the one in the Palisades, which is
Lake Shrine.
the Lake Shrine, which is tucked away I take people there, and they are absolutely mesmerized and shocked that anything like this exists. So we've been chatting a while. Join us. Jump in.
Well,
Please.
first, Sonny, I want to offer you this gift of the 1946 first
What?
edition.
Oh my goodness! Oh my
As
goodness! Yay!
as a
Thank you
thanks.
so much. I mean, I have my one that's seen many days and many
Yeah.
locations.
Yeah.
Oh,
The original
wow.
cover
This
had
is
that
the
blue.
original color?
Yeah, it had that blue 1946 Philosophical
What?
Library, December 1st,
Whoa.
1946. This seminal book was introduced into the world. And there's some kind of timeless magic to Autobiography of a Yogi.
Can I ask you a question about
Sure.
that? Because I think many people know of it and kind of know that it was such a thing. But what did happen in the very beginning? I mean, what was sort of how did it kind of land with peeps, and how was it?
Well, Yogananda's book really took the world by storm. I mean, he was already at that time one of the foremost speakers in America. I mean, he had his tours across the country. He had met the president. He filled Carnegie Hall, with Los Angeles here as well, thousands of people. So this was sort of the
Congress.
cherry.
I mean, he spoke. Yes.
And his influence was into the arts, into music. Of course, the Beatles even had his picture on the cover of Sgt. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's remarkable, things like Steve Jobs having the only book on his iPad was the Autobiography of a Yogi.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to realize that the influence of this book is so far reaching. Even though 30 million people have read it, it far surpasses that in terms of its reach in the world.
That's what
And
I think.
I think it makes so much sense that we're partnered with the BODHI Tree for this event, Stephen, because what you were saying about community and how Phil and Stan, their original evolution of the BODHI Tree, they didn't have a plan and they listened. And I wanted to share what something Yogananda actually said
Please.
about community, because he was very enthusiastic about the idea. And this is from Autobiography of a Yogi. Utopia must spring in the private bosom before it can flower in civic virtue. Man is a soul, not an institution. His inner reforms alone can lend permanence to outer ones. By stress on spiritual values, self-realization, a colony exemplifying world brotherhood is empowered to send inspiring vibrations far beyond its locale. And this is why Yogananda was so enthusiastic about the idea of small, intentional communities to give hope for a new world. And we know that our world is desperately in need of hope and direction and clarity amidst all the divisiveness that we have in the world today. So his message is even more pertinent today. And I think that's why no matter where people are on their spiritual journey, they always can track some inspiration back to the autobiography.
Yes. I feel like it's also really a book to read from start to finish because it's such a phenomenal story.
Yeah.
And one thing that a lot of people may not know is that of course Yogananda was very, very close with Gandhi. I mean, very
Yes.
close, and he taught him Kriya Yoga and all of that.
Yes.
And so the story that I understand is that when Gandhi passed away, they were very, very close, and of course the Lake Shrine. Had Gandhi, and still does to this day, some of Gandhi's ashes.
That's right.
Basically half of them, and the other half were in India.
Yeah.
And then he said at his in his will, at the 50th anniversary of his passing, that he wanted the ashes in India to be released,
Wow.
and the ones in LA at Lake Shrine to stay. Oh my gosh. So they're still there, guys.
They're still
so I
there.
go
Yeah.
there, you go there, you feel it. So
Yeah.
the only place on earth that Gandhi's ashes are at the Lake Shrine.
Yeah, it's a sacred spot there,
Oof.
Lake Shrine in the
Boy, is it
Palisades.
ever.
You get chills just thinking about it. And there, that message of Gandhi, be the change in the world that you want to see. That's what you were just saying, I think before maybe we got on air, about stepping off of the yoga mat and really, living your teaching. And that's why Yogananda called it self-realization, because it turns the focus back within. And he was urging people in this way to go within, but then to take that message and live it in their jobs, in their families, in education, in relationships, and everything. And that's where the That's where community again comes into play, because it's like the living laboratory or the gymnasium. You know, you have your inner gymnasium of your own spiritual practice and meditation and Kriya Yoga or whatever your practice is, but the outer litmus test, if you will, is how you're living. How are you getting along with other people? It's not the great experiences or visions you have. It's just, are you feeling more kind? Are you
Today, what happened? How did you treat somebody? How did you speak to someone?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's the counsel of the Bhagavad Gita that Yogananda talks about in autobiography. It's the very first sloka of the Indian scripture. What did they? Who won today, in other words? The forces of light or the forces of darkness?
Whoa.
And that is the whole counsel of self-realization. There's an amazing passage in here where Yogananda talks about, wise is that man, lone is he who plucks the cleaveless leaf of unity amidst duality. In other words, this world is just, it's crazy. And if you try and understand this world, you'll go crazy, right? So if we can turn within, and like he would always have that analogy of the movies. And if you could get back to the searchlight and see that this is God's play. But just saying that as a platitude doesn't work. One has to actually experience it and feel it. So when we can start to feel our unity, that is the science of Kriya Yoga, of meditation. When we can transcend our little self and start to feel our expanded soul self and our connection and our oneness with other people in all life, then we can actually start to bring that consciousness into reality. And we're seeing that. This is this new age. This is why Stephen is bringing this Dwapara Yuga, or this age of energy, technology. That's actually one of the things he said in autobiography. He said divine vision is center everywhere, circumference nowhere.
Wow, I love that.
It's mind-blowing. And
It is
That inspired
mind-blowing.
Barbara Marx Hubbard in her kind of global vision for how to use
Yeah.
the internet as the nerve center, the brain, if you will, of the
Yes.
world. You know, she talks about
Yes.
how that connectivity has now allowed us as a global community to actually have a single-mindedness that we could never have before.
Well, and also when we look at the web of life and we see, if any of you guys are out there know math, you know what the Venn diagram is, and that Venn diagram is the sameness. And in the web of life, it's sort of all about Venn diagrams, just a billion Venn diagrams. I was thinking about, again, to speak about what's happening in the world and what, one of the answers. I have a cousin who's extremely political. She actually worked in the White House. Her dad was, my uncle was head counsel to Kennedy. So it's like a whole history of that. But she's a political person right now, and she's worked with some of the people who might be, in other words, she's done a lot. She knows a lot of behind the scenes things. And so we've sort of looked to her to say, what do we do? And at this point, even though I don't even know if she's ever read any spiritual book, but she's a brilliant person. And she just said, at this point, listen as deeply as we can to everything. Watch as closely as we can to, everything. And then when the time comes where there is something that we can do to act, do act.
Yeah.
And don't act from a place of divisiveness or from blame or from fear or craziness, but from a place of really understanding what the situation is and then going from there. Again, there's a lot of, like, little kids are reactive to things.
Right.
And there's a lot of that going on. And so to be able to use these principles in a way that are really needed right now, I just really appreciate that we can tie that in.
Can I suggest that we send a copy of Autobiography of the Yogi to everyone in the new administration, and we'll do that together, BODHI TREE and Ananda. And
absolutely.
let's just get that out to them all. If they read it, they do. If not, that's their issue.
And that is and these are the things that we can do, like on this show,
Yeah.
And it was so great that you guys are on the show today, because I had another guest that fell out, and then it was just like magic that this, we pulled this together in one day. And you're busier than God, and you're busier than God, and I usually have the show booked. But I've been really working with sort of what is mine to do with this, and having a mic and chatting to all you guys out there, and like, what do we say? What do we do? How do we, how do we get off the yoga mat, as Michael says, and dance in the streets?
Yes.
That's my part for saying dance in the streets. What is that for us to do? And again, I was speaking to many of our friends from Agape and different people like that are, just kind of like what to do. And again, it's not about demonizing. It's like, that's over.
Yeah.
Now what's up? What is actually up and what's in front of us?
Let's start with actually sending love, because we
Yeah.
know that all these people, everyone deserves and needs love. And we should really, and it's such a difficult practice. I remember the first time I heard that, I think was back in a prior administration that I wasn't so fond of. And I think it was actually Michael or someone in the Agape community that said, let's all literally take a moment here and send love. And I was like, really? I want to be mad about this, right? I was not so fond of that idea.
You weren't feeling it.
Yeah, but I think it's absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start.
Well, one thing that I want to say about that is I just saw the movie Moana. It made me think of that. And it's a beautiful Disney movie, and but what I want to say about it is there's an extremely angry element in this movie that is just, oh my God, and the whole story is sort of getting the heart back to this energy. And when the heart, I know it's a spoiler, but it is a cartoon. You guys, we should watch it 10 times anyway, because there's so much symbolism in there, and it's Polynesian, it's phenomenal. And the guy who did the music for Hamilton did the music for this, Lynn. Anyway, when this volcanic ash crazy energy gets the heart, then it just completely settles down, turns into this beautiful goddess, and then the goddess sort of lays down and becomes this beautiful mountain. So it's like, it just gives me the chills to say that, and it's like, we know that. I mean, we've all had kids. We know that when our kids are really angry and acting out, it's like they do in Africa. When a teenager is acting out, it's not about putting them in putting them away and giving them a time out. It's about everyone in the community giving love to that child, knowing that that's really what's going on.
Yeah. It's a fascinating thing. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda said that thoughts, this is a wild one to meditate on, thoughts, he said, are universally, not individually rooted. So in other words, your thoughts are not your own. Your thoughts are dependent upon the level of consciousness on which you live. And so this is why he stressed meditation and the neuroscience of meditation, of lifting your energy and then raising your consciousness. Then you can see, like you were saying, the super conscious solutions, and not getting sucked into the blame game or,
the victim or
exactly, and all that. So, but one has to feel, I think for us to activate, you have to feel what is inspiring to you. So the way Stephen has felt called to serve in this way, to reincarnate the Bodhi tree with modern technology. I mean, that's a beautiful inspiration, and it's coming from within him. And I think that's an important thing, that we also need to pick and choose our battles.
Well, absolutely, and it's that purpose. And I think that if anything, what's going on is I feel like for many, many years, and this has been sort of the journey of being a spiritual person, a sacred person, a political person, a social activist person, what does that all mean? Can that all be the same person? Does that have to be 4 different colors in the crayon box? I mean, what does it actually mean? And I realize that, of course, it can be the same person, and it's really feeling that purpose. And again, it is, though, if something is it's that balance. If something is going on that really is not okay, think of the civil rights or the women's suffrage movement, when it was like, well, this is becoming really not okay. There's really no, what is happening here, people? We've got to change this. And sometimes it does take a little bit of punching. I mean, sometimes to get the calcium off something, you got to chisel it, or you got to take a hammer and whack it a little bit or something. I mean, it's not, and so that's why I think the peace, love, brotherhood, let's send love and light is beautiful. And, bringing that other stuff in.
Be very active, be very vigilant, be very aware, take action in many other ways. Absolutely. That's why I said a good place to start.
Right,
only,
exactly.
Right? Only that. Right?
But that's the challenge, because I think that, and this is one of the things that got Marianne to do Sister Giant, and first of all, to bring women into politics, but to also, one of the things that I want to say, actually, guys, about politics is that I think that what happened in this situation is that people have for many years started to demonize politics and demonize politicians. And again, I have family in politics, and if you follow a congressperson around for a day, just good luck with that. I mean,
Right.
unless you eat your Wheaties and have PF flyers on and all that stuff, and most of you are too young to know what I'm talking about, but to stay with them and know what they do all day long. Oh my God. And this is, day in, day out. So there are tons and tons of people who really do great work. And I think what happened was there were definitely a few bad apples, and which caused a lot of not only consternation, but a lot of gridlock, obviously. I mean, these are words we all know. So it all of a sudden became like all of politics is bad. All politicians are bad. They leave a bad taste in our mouth, and we're just going to look away, and we can't deal. And again, it's never about demonizing. And there are lots and lots of heroes who do great work every day. So I just want to send out the love to the people who are doing the great work, and then also to and I think that's what happened with this bounce was to hire somebody to do a job that he's never done before. Like, what's that about? I mean, would you do that? Like, I'm going to bring this engineer in, but he's really a hairdresser. But I'm sick of my last 3 engineers, so I'm going to bring in this hairdresser and just kind of see what happens.
I probably wouldn't. There's always a fresh take. That's okay.
But that's kind of what the country did. They sort of said,
take,
we want a fresh take, but we want, really.
Yeah.
So again, I think that's part of the really listening deeply and understanding all the elements and not being reactive and little babies about it.
Yeah.
Can I come back to your comment about action? And I just want to, we've mentioned Michael Bernard Beckwith a few times in Agape here in this conversation. He's going to be at our event tomorrow night.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that we let people know that this is not just, the book, but actually there are going to be a number of spiritual leaders and celebrities and teachers of various sorts who are a part of the event. So Michael Bernard Beckwith, Yogi Cameron, who maybe many people know is himself a deeply committed yogi on this path, will be there live. Philip Goldberg, great author, Elizabeth Rom, Joan Borisenko is Skyping in to have her share about how the book inspired her.
Beautiful.
Jyotish
and Devi are going to have
and
a
Devi,
video.
the leaders of Ananda worldwide, are going to be presenting. The Ananda choir, there's going to be live music.
Oh, goodness.
So a lot of things. And in mentioning Michael, I wanted to say he has a teaching that I love, that I try to live by, and it became a program for him called The Rhythm of a Descended Master. So in a lot of spiritual teachings, we think about and maybe want to become ascended, that sit on the mountaintop and be above it all, right? And his teaching is that in this lifetime, we are here in form, and really our responsibility is to be a descended master, to be engaged, to be active, and it's really a great way of rethinking that, and it's also a call to action. Be descended, not ascended.
Go ahead.
Yoganandas, that's actually what his name meant in a way. Paramahansa means the supreme swan. So in other words, to be in the world but not of it, not touched by it. And when with a great yoga master like this who came to the West in 1920, he was giving us that example of it's not about retreating like you had that experience, Sonny. I'm 12, am I going to go to the Himalayas? There's a story where Yogananda had this wanderlust where he wanted to go to the Himalayas again and again. You might recall that. He kept having this desire. And then finally he met this one Himalayan saint. And he said, do you have a little corner in your room? And he said, yes. He said, that is your cave.
Wow,
that is where you will find the kingdom of God. And he said his whole desire for the Himalayas left him in that moment. But that is, I think, absolutely right, Stephen, what Michael Bernard Beckwith is sharing, and that this is the teaching for this age is we do need to be in the world. And yes, we need to have an inner spiritual life, but it's living it. And it's from everything from sending love and having a smile for people. I mean, our friend Dr. Peter Van Houten, who's a longtime Kriya yogi, has a medical clinic outside Ananda Village in Northern California. It's a foremost clinic in the country where he's integrated behavioral therapy, and they actually teach people meditation, but they don't call it meditation.
Cool.
They'll teach them deep breathing, they'll teach them this. But the reason I brought him up was he had talked recently about how your brain is engineered for divinity, and that 15 minutes of meditation a day literally restructures the brain's functioning and its connectivity, and that when you just walk down the street and there's this new phenomenon they're talking about of mirror neurons, which you may have heard of.
Oh, yeah.
If just you smile or you wave and someone waves back, that has an influence. Swami Sri Yukteswar in Autobiography said that the man of self-realization is a cause in the world.
Love that.
And-
I love that.
Great expression of it.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for sharing that. And one thing that I wanted to say about that and also about Michael is that I really, over the years, I've really come to absolutely love Michael's message in the world. It's one that
Very
has
inspiring.
evolved.
Yes.
I really feel like there's some people who just kind of say what they say and they say what they say. Michael, I really feel, has very much evolved, and I just want to say that. And I've he really walks the talk. I've had the pleasure and privilege of being at the abode, and he's a very serious vegan, and they're environmentalists, and they've just really walked the talk as much as anybody can, in my opinion. And also, I love the fact that he talks about. A lot of the time, I really love this. I'm all about myth busting. It's sort of. I wanted to create some tagline for my show that had something to do with myth busting because I feel so, vehement, very, very important. And Michael talks about unlearning, and just really unlearning and just not holding so much to a truth. And that's one of the things that I feel that I've noticed in the last bit in the world, where people will hold on to something that they think is truth with sort of a fear and a very deep, very, tight grasp. And it's like, what? People were put to death for not believing that the earth was flat. Like they were killed over that one. So it's like, guys, whatever. Just like knowing that this table we think is solid, but of course now we know it's not. All the things that we just get to keep knowing, learning. Oh my God, John told us we have 5 minutes. What the bleep? So what happened to our time? Oh my God. And I love it that we talk so fast. So
Another way of expressing that is beginner's mind, which is a really great way of kind of being aware all the time to come back to, take out all your preconceptions, all your winning formulas, and start again with a beginner's mind.
I love that.
I want to share, that's an idea of what we're doing here with the Bodhi tree. This is our card. It says deep roots, new growth, right? So that's where we kind of want to live, is in this place of where we draw on these great wisdom traditions, the ancient wisdom, but we're always moving forward. We're always progressing. And let's all know that we are progressing, even in this current election, even in this current moment. It is still progress. It may not be evident to us, but it is indeed some way that we are growing.
Thank you. And let us really, really know that. And so when we really have to end, so I want to make sure, thank you so much for this book. I can't tell you, it just brings tears to my eyes. I'm so grateful to have this book. You have absolutely no idea.
We also have to tell the audience where they can experience this event.
Let us do
tomorrow.
that. Yeah, so I want to make sure we get all the PR stuff in. So let's go for it.
So the event itself is at maximum capacity. We only have room for about 125 people at Bodhi Tree Live. However, it is being broadcast on 3 formats. So you can go to bodhitree.com/Yogananda. And there is a live stream that will be occurring there. It begins at 7 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. It will be running until 9, perhaps 9:30. We'll see how long it all goes. But starting at 7 p.m. bodhitree.com/Yogananda. It will also be on Facebook Live. So if you want to do that, just go to Bodhi Tree's Facebook page and you'll see it broadcast on Facebook Live. And if you're a young millennial, it's also going to be on Periscope. So we're going to be on all platforms. Then you'll be able to find it there and participate and enjoy it all.
And then also December 8th.
December 8th is Bodhi Day at Bodhi Tree. Again, information at bodhitree.com/Bodhi Day. And if you are coming, if you're one of the people who are coming, do come by and see us there. It's at the corner of La Brea and Melrose. 633 North La Brea is where the new Bodhi Tree Live event space is.
Perfect. And so what will be happening is you guys can contact me, and you know how to follow me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, and here at UBN, of course. And then just go, there's an actual website so you can find out, because there are developments. This is in progress. This is this is. I mean, there are great roots that were created with the Bodhi tree. I was going to say hundreds of years ago, which is true, thousands of years ago.
Deep roots,
and
yes.
then when the Bodhi tree came to Melrose, and then now it is evolving with new sprouts of green. And so we can't even tell you it all because stuff hasn't even happened yet that we're going to find out in a.
There is so much more to share, but we'll do that another day.
So much more, and I'll have to have you guys back, and then we're going to do music next time because we have all these instruments here.
And can I thank Ananda and Narayan and Dharma Devi and Jacqueline, who's our publicist, who reached out to us because they have been so extraordinary to partner with and to just co-create this event with. We're really grateful. We're so honored. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Yeah, deeply grateful. It's just, I mean, what better occasion to celebrate than the publication of this seminal spiritual classic.
And guys, with Ananda too, there are a lot of centers around LA and all of that. So go just ananda.com and find out what's going on.
AnandaLA.org is our site for LA, and Ananda.org is Ananda Worldwide site where you can actually read the autobiography of a yogi for free, along with many other books and resources. But if you're in LA, AnandaLA.org, and you can find our centers.
There's also an opportunity to get the book as a free ebook or a free audio book if you register for this live stream broadcast. So register to view the broadcast tomorrow and get the book free, a gift from Ananda.
Yeah.
And guys, I want to thank you for what you're doing because, again, I think at this time and at any time, I mean, Autobiography of a Yogi and the Bodhi tree coming forward is a place that I'm so appreciating that is going to have a new life. And again, it's ancient and it's, it's recent and it is relevant and it's so important for our time. And of course, millions of other peeps have read this book because, we all pass it to 10 people. So the expansion of this message that we now get to experience. And again, Stephen, for all the work that you do with Michael, with all of your organizations and bringing out edutainment, basically, spiritual information and education and entertainment for people. We just need it. We love it. We want it. Do more of it. Keep doing it. Keep on keeping on, as we used to say.
This book is all about living your life purpose, and I've been very grateful to have done that.
Oh my God. So until next time, guys, see ya.
Thank you,
it's sunny. Bye.